This week in Nepal, a chunk of glacier broke loose and became a wall of water that tore down the Trishuli River and through whole villages. Hundreds confirmed dead. Over 1,000 more still missing. Whole towns declared disaster zones. And the same physics that killed them is sitting in the ditch behind your house. 6 inches of fast-moving water can knock a grown adult flat and start sliding a car sideways. But the tool that gets you out of the car costs $8. It's all on a free cheat sheet at sketchysurvival101.com/free. Grab it, because in the next few minutes, you're going to learn why water you could normally stand in can pick up cars like toys, and why the deadliest floods show up under a clear blue sky. Start with the part your brain refuses to believe. You've stood in a creek before. Water feels soft. It splashes, it parts around your ankles, it goes wherever you push it. So, when you see a sheet of brown water sliding across a road, maybe 6 inches deep, your brain files it under puddle. That one filing error kills more flood victims than anything else, and it comes down to 2 simple numbers. The first number is weight. A single cubic foot of water, a block about the size of a beach ball, weighs around 62 pounds. Water's over 700 times heavier than air. And you already respect moving air. When a storm's winds hit just 39 miles an hour, it gets named and we start watching the sky. Now take that same moving stuff and make it hundreds of times heavier. Water moving at a slow jog carries the kind of punch we usually save for hurricanes and tropical storms. The second number is the one that really gets people. The force, or the push, from moving water doesn't grow evenly as it speeds up. It grows way faster than that. Double the water's speed, and the push on your legs doesn't double. It quadruples. Triple the speed, and the force jumps 9 times higher. Engineers call it the square of speed, but all you need to remember is this. A flood that speeds up just a little turns into a completely different animal. Water moving at only 7 miles an hour, slower than you can jog, pushes on everything it touches about as hard as a 200-mile-an-hour wind. Your eyes see a shallow brown stream. The physics sees a freight train of moving weight that never gets tired and never lets up. And that brown color is telling you something. Floodwater runs brown because it's dragging the landscape along with it. Sand, gravel, mud, whole trees, sometimes the neighbor's shed, or in Nepal's case, bridges and surrounding structures. Every pound of debris makes the flow heavier and turns it into a battering ram full of moving hammers, so the water hits you twice, once with its own weight, and again with everything it grabbed upstream. But raw push still doesn't explain the strangest fact in this whole subject, which is how many flood victims die inside cars. A car feels like the safest thing you own. A steel cage, airbags, 2 tons of metal between you and the world. Here's the problem. That 2 tons of metal is wrapped around a big sealed pocket of air. From the water's point of view, your car isn't a rock. It's a boat with doors that don't seal and an engine that hates getting wet. The water attacks in 2 stages. First, it lifts. For every cubic foot of water your car shoves aside, the water pushes back up with about 62 pounds of lift. That's buoyancy, the same upward shove that floats a boat. 6 inches of fast-moving water is already enough to lighten the car and start sliding it sideways, because your tires only grip as long as the car's weight is pressing them onto the road. At around a foot of depth, many cars start to float outright. At 2 feet, most vehicles are gone, trucks included. The second those tires lift off, all your steel and all your horsepower stop mattering. You're not a driver anymore. You're cargo. And the trap has a second stage. Water piling against the outside of your door builds up shockingly fast, with just a couple of feet of water pushing on it. Opening that door takes hundreds of pounds of force, way more than you can make sitting down with a bent arm. So the doors pin shut. The engine floods and stalls. The water reaches the wiring, and the power windows you were counting on go dead. Now you're sealed in a steel box that's filling with water. Hold that picture, because in a few minutes I'll show you the $8 way out. But first, you need to see why almost nobody in these stories sees the water coming. Here's the mechanism that makes a flash flood different from every other disaster. Rain doesn't stay where it hits. The land collects it. A mountain range is basically a giant funnel the size of a county. Every slope, every gully, every side canyon drains toward one channel. So a storm spread across 50 square miles of high ground gets squeezed into a passage a few dozen yards wide. The water piles up on itself, picks up speed, grabs logs and boulders and fence posts, and shows up as a moving wall. And it shows up fast. A bone-dry wash can be running at deadly depth just minutes after rain that fell 10 miles away, over hills you can't even see. Under your feet, dry gravel. Over your head, blue sky. And the flood is already on its way. That's exactly what happened in Nepal. Many of the people along the Trishuli that day never saw a storm at all. Far above them, high in the mountains, a massive glacier ice broke loose and came down as a churning wall of water and debris, feeding straight into the river system that runs down to the Trishuli. The channel did what channels do. It funneled everything downhill, stacking the surge higher and faster with every mile, until it slammed into riverside villages and a river road with almost no warning. Among the hundreds still missing are more than 500 foreign travelers from over 30 different countries, people from all over the world who were simply standing near a river on the wrong afternoon. Nobody there was reckless. They were just standing at the narrow end of a funnel. So here's the idea I want to weld into your head, because it'll change how you see the ground itself for the rest of your life. A dry wash isn't land. It's a river holding its breath. That flat, sandy channel that looks like the perfect campsite is flat and sandy because roaring water bulldozed it, sorted the gravel, and swept it clean over and over for centuries. The desert didn't build that smooth floor. The flood did. Everywhere you go, the shape of the land is a map of where water runs, drawn by the water itself. Learn to read that map and you'll spot the kill zones from a quarter-mile off, the smooth channel, the canyon narrows, the highway underpass that turns into a bathtub with no drain, the low crossing where the road dips down to kiss the creek bed, the dip in the road with a little depth marker planted beside it. Nobody put that marker there for decoration. They put it there because the road sits in the river's path, and the river always comes back for it. Now the way out, because this is where $8 beats 2 tons of steel. If your car ends up in moving water, floating, or filling, the order you do things matters more than how strong you are. Forget the doors. You know the physics now. Hundreds of pounds of water are holding them shut, and shoving on them just burns the seconds you can't spare. The whole plan is 3 words. Seatbelt. Window. Out. Seatbelt off first, yours. Then the kids. Get the window open, then push the kids out first, oldest to youngest, so the big ones can help the little ones and you go last. Here's the detail that saves lives. Power windows often keep working for a little while even as the car takes on water, so hit the switch right away, before the electronics drown. And move fast, because a floating car doesn't float for long. Cars settle unevenly and start to roll as they fill, and the window that was above the water can quickly slip under it. The whole escape usually has to happen inside the first minute or so, while the car is still riding high and the water inside is still shallow. If the switch is dead, you go out through the glass, and if your side window is tempered glass, and most side windows still are, the physics finally works in your favor. Tempered glass shrugs off a punch from your fist because your fist spreads its force across the whole pane. But jam that same force into one tiny point, and tempered glass can shatter all at once into little pebbles. That's what a spring-loaded window punch is built to do. You press the tip into a bottom corner of the side window. A spring drives a hard steel point into the glass, and a tempered pane breaks apart. No big swing, no room needed, and it works underwater. It costs about $8. Don't bother with the windshield. The windshield is laminated, with a plastic layer baked inside that holds it together, so a punch won't open it. 2 catches, and they matter. First, mount the punch securely where your hand can find it without looking, clipped to the visor, in the door pocket, on the steering column, somewhere it can't get flung loose in a crash. A rescue tool buried in a bag in the trunk is a paperweight. Second, some newer cars now use laminated glass on the side windows too, and a punch won't crumble laminated glass. Check the little label in the corner of your window or your owner's manual. If the front windows are laminated, the back ones are often still tempered. Know which window is your exit before you ever need one. Once the glass is gone, here's the part most people get wrong. If the car is still floating, climb out onto the roof and stay with it. A floating car is a bigger, more visible raft than you are, and rescuers can spot it. Only let go into the water if the car is going under or the current rips you off it. And if you do end up in the current, get on your back with your feet pointed downstream, so your legs hit any debris before your head does, and use your arms to steer toward the bank. Never try to stand up or wade in fast-moving floodwater at any depth. A foot wedged between 2 rocks while the current folds you forward is one of the deadliest traps in all of survival. And to be clear, none of this is an invitation to go try it. This is for the day the water doesn't give you a choice. Maybe you're still thinking your rig is different. Lifted truck, 4-wheel drive, aggressive tires. Run the numbers again. 2 feet of moving water moves most vehicles on the road, trucks included, and brown floodwater hides 2 things at once. It hides how deep it is, and it hides whether the road is even still there, because a flood can rip the whole roadbed out from under the surface. The 18 inches you think you're crossing might be a washed-out hole 6 feet deep. That's why the National Weather Service repeats one phrase over and over. Turn around, don't drown. It's not advice for timid drivers. It's an admission that from behind the wheel, you simply can't judge how deep moving water is. Not you, not anybody. The other objection is your phone. You've got flood alerts switched on, so you'll get a warning, right? Sometimes. A phone alert needs working cell towers, an active signal, a charged battery, and an owner who's awake. Canyon walls block the signal. Floods knock the towers out. And the deadliest flash floods love to arrive between midnight and dawn, while whole campgrounds and neighborhoods are asleep. That's why the second piece of gear in this kit is a hand-crank weather radio, about $30. It picks up National Weather Service broadcasts straight from the transmitter. No towers, no data plan, no account. The good ones have an alert feature that switches itself on and wakes you when a warning goes out for your county. The crank is the whole point. A minute of turning the handle buys you listening time. So a dead battery can't kill your warning the way it kills a phone, and most models will even push a little charge back into that phone when the grid is down. In a flash flood, your head start is measured in minutes, and now you know exactly what those few minutes buy. So add up the whole kit: an $8 window punch riding on your visor, a $30 weather radio on the shelf, and the free knowledge which does most of the heavy lifting. Never drive into water covering the road, no matter how shallow it looks from your seat. Never wade into moving floodwater at all, because even 6 inches of it can take a grown adult off their feet. Never camp, park, or stop in a wash or a low channel, even bone dry, even under blue sky. When rain falls upstream, treat it like it fell on you. And if your car stalls in rising water, get out right away and climb to high ground, because cars are replaceable. That's the whole system, under $40, and it goes with you everywhere. One more free upgrade. Tonight, sitting in your parked car in the driveway, run the sequence once with your eyes shut. Seatbelt. Window. Out. Touch the punch without looking. Your hands remember drills far better than your brain remembers videos. And in cold, dark, rising water, your hands are the only part of you still taking orders. A $5,000 smart home flood system will text you when your basement gets damp, and it protects your drywall beautifully. It just can't follow you into a canyon, onto a highway, or into a floating car. This cheap kit protects the part of your life that moves. And the whole thing, the sequence, the depths, the gear, fits on one page. That's the cheat sheet. Free at sketchysurvival101.com/free. Print it and stick it in the glove box. The surge on the Trishuli didn't break a single law of physics. Weight, speed, the funnel. The water did exactly what water has always done, and it'll do it again this year, in some ditch, some underpass, some pretty sandy campsite that's really a sleeping river. Water never surprises physics. It only surprises people. Now you're not one of them. And since a flood takes the power grid down right along with the roads, sometimes for weeks, your next stop is our video on pulling free electricity out of a dead grid. That's the skill the water test next. Go watch it now.